Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, some of my longtime subscribers, I consider you friends, right? You've made these videos possible. Some of my longtime subscribers have suggested that I change my intro. Right? They argue that I'm not a complete stranger. I've been on YouTube for a few years now. Right? I'm going to leave it as is. Simply because there's a big message there. Right? In the world of gambling, just understand, regardless of who you know, you're always on your own. Right? In a sense, when it comes to betting money, your money, everyone else is a complete stranger. You need to make your own decisions, right? There are going to be times here online where I'm in car crashes, where I make a call. Just this last weekend, I thought Manny would win by KO. He didn't. Right? Where I make a call that ends up being wrong. Right? For whatever reason, Jesse Vargas is able to get off the canvas and go the distance, right? I want you to take responsibility for your own betting decisions. Literally, all I am here online is a second opinion, right? So I do want gamblers, no matter how, much you believe you know me, I do want everyone watching this video, especially a video like this, where I'm going to make a play that many might disagree with. Right? I do want you, at the end of the day, before you make any bet, to take personal responsibility for it. To view me as a complete stranger. Right? To do the homework yourself. To get other opinions. To think it through before you make any play. Now here, let's talk about Manny Pacquiao against Kell Brook. Right? Understand, both guys have a share, as I make this video, of the welterweight title. Now, in my opinion, just based on my observations in life, guys with reflexes, right? Guys with freakish reflexes don't yo-yo in weight. They might gain weight over time, right? Floyd Mayweather started as a fighter. Manny Pacquiao started as a fighter in a much lighter weight class than they last fought in. Right? As people age, many of us gain weight. Right? Trust me, when I was 21, I weighed a lot less than I do now. Right? I can see that. A guy with great reflexes, as he gets older, gaining weight, but still having great reflexes. But understand, gaining weight over time is different than yo-yoing in weight. Now, I'm aware that there have been some guys who were notorious for yo-yoing in weight, who ended up having very lucrative, very successful careers. Right? Off the top of my head, Roberto Duran and Ricky Hatton come to mind. Right? But you show me the guy who yo-yos in weight, and YouTube Nation, there's a comment section to this video. If you want to contest it, go ahead and leave those comments in the comment section. Let's try to be transparent here. But you show me a guy, this is my own thought, you show me a guy who yo-yos greatly in weight, and I'll show you a guy who's getting by more on technique and power than he is speed. than his reflexes. Right? Now let me just say, it should be obvious. In fact, it is obvious in other sports. Right? Let's take track and field, where literally every 100th of a second counts in, let's say, the 100 meters sprint. Right? Matches are decided. World records are decided by 100th of a second. If you're slow out of the block, if your reaction time is slow out of the block, that could well cost you the race. Now, Usain Bolt is the world's fastest man, right? He's the best in the event. If Usain Bolt between races gained 25, 30 pounds, right, and then lost the 25 to 30 pounds to race in big races with world-class opposition, like, let's say, the World Championships or the Olympics. If he did any of that, there'd come a time where you would think, you know what, I'm going to go with the second fastest man in the world. Right? If that second fastest man in the world never yo-yos, isn't spending time trying to lose weight, isn't putting that kind of stress on their body and their reflexes. Right? Usain Bolt doesn't gain the weight because he understands. To keep his reflexes, to keep it together, he can't gain the weight. He has to cater to his body. He can't stress his body. Now, I saw a fighter who was lightning quick, incredible reflexes, a freak athlete, right? He had arguably the most dominant run I've seen a boxer have, right? I'm sure in history, fighters have had great runs, right? But just during my life, when I was aware of what was going on, when I was able to watch a sporting event and actually appreciate the sporting event, the run Roy Jones had, where he was blowing out Hall of Fame opposition like Virgil Hill, was remarkable. Jones has a round against Vinny Pazienza, who was a decent fighter. He's the subject of a movie that's out right now, where according to one of these punch stat agencies, punch stat or CompuBox, Pazienza, who was not a wallflower, who came in the ring to throw punches, goes through a round against Roy Jones where Jones's reflexes were such that Vinny Pazienza, according to the punch agency, right, landed no punches. Understand, Jones was special. He was the best in the sport pound for pound. Now he gains weight, becomes the heavyweight champion. Now somehow, the people around him, rather than embrace his acquisition of the crown jewel of the sport, rather than leverage his hand speed, he still had it at heavy. Rather than leverage his hand speed and make a decision, say, okay, look, we know Roy is small for the division, but let's enjoy this while it lasts. Let's have Roy win a few fights, right? You know, fight some opposition. Let's have Roy go out on his sword. Instead, they made the decision of having Roy drop back down to light heavy. Now, if you believe the weigh-in numbers, Roy was in the 190s when he fought John Ruiz for the heavyweight title. He dropped back down to light heavy. The limit there is 175. We're talking about a 15-pound swing, right? Let's remember that. Roy Jones, after he dropped back down, he was only at heavy for what, one fight? After he dropped back down, he never had the reflexes again. Never. The Roy Jones you're seeing today doesn't even resemble prime Roy Jones Jr. Right? Doesn't resemble him. Now, Kell Brook, 147-pound champ, unbeaten, gained weight 30 days before the Golovkin fight. Right? 30 days before. Kell Brook looking ripped. Right? Not looking flabby. This isn't Roberto Duran at a cafe. Right? Before the Ray Leonard rematch. No, Kell Brook looking ripped, weighed in the 170s. Right? Weighed in the 170s. In my opinion, there is no way that Kell Brook, who's yo-yoed, who apparently behind the scenes has had a problem making weight at 147, can drop back down to 147 to fight Manny Pacquiao. Right? No way. I like Manny Pacquiao in that fight. Dare I say, and remember, you need to make your own decisions. I'm just talking for me here. Right? Dare I say I like Pacquiao big. I wouldn't be surprised if Manny Pacquiao, who hits hard, right? Vargas was on the canvas his last fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Manny Pacquiao doesn't completely embarrass Kell Brook. You know, punch resistance has a lot to do with weight. Right? When Roy Jones came back down, you remember he had lost his ability to take a punch. He gets stopped by Tarver. He gets stopped by Glenn Johnson. What I want people to do is to look at those stoppages. Right? Roy is down for a long period of time after getting stopped by Glenn Johnson. A long period of time. I question whether Kell Brook would still be Kell Brook if he lost the weight to get to 147. Right? If I were Michael Kantz and the advisors to Manny Pacquiao, I'd be urging Manny Pacquiao to sign the deal for that fight as soon as possible. Right? Now's the time to force Kell Brook to lose the weight, to try to be competitive against Manny Pacquiao. Let's also talk style. Right? Just for a moment here. Isn't there an open question to you on how well Kell Brook handles an opponent's speed? Right? It's very hard to tie up Manny Pacquiao. Can we agree on that? Revisit his last fight. How many times was Jesse Vargas able to take a step forward and just tie up Manny Pacquiao? Pacquiao is lightning quick. He's hard to get a hold of. He has great legs. He's jumping around the ring. You can't just stand forward and tie him up. When Manny Pacquiao comes in, he's great at coming in, then bouncing back out. When Kell Brook fought Shawn Porter, and Shawn Porter's who you need to think about in a way when you're thinking about Manny Pacquiao. Right? Sudden, short, quick. Right? When Kell Brook fought Shawn Porter, I know Brook won that fight. But when Shawn Porter jumped inside, Kell Brook was able to tie him up. That's how he dealt with the speed. He tied up Shawn Porter. Would he have that weapon against Manny Pacquiao? I don't think he would. I think Pacquiao would come in the ring. Pacquiao's, and I'm talking about today, Pacquiao's at least as fast in terms of hand speed as Kell Brook. At least as fast. Pacquiao would be firing bullets back at Kell Brook. How's Kell gonna dampen Pacquiao's speed? He's not gonna be able to use a Sean Porter game plan. Right? Understand too, and you notice this with older fighters, right? An older fighter, if he comes in and it's a fast-paced fight, he'll look good the early rounds, right? Because when his tank is 100%, he can hang. He's experienced. He's been in the game. So he'll look good for the early rounds. But then you'll notice that as the fighters start to tire, the experienced younger guy, not the green younger guy who's never been to the 6th round, but the experienced younger guy who's been to the later part of a fight, won't tire as much as the older guy, right, who starts to tire. Age is not on his side. He's spent by the middle of the fight. Now, I know many of you right now are saying, isn't Manny Pacquiao 37 years old? You know what? Manny's an outlier. I was looking at the later rounds of the Vargas fight. Vargas looked like he was the older fighter. Vargas looked like the guy who was tiring, not Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao is a freak athlete. Let's call it what it is. Some guys are just freak athletes. Manny has an energy level in the 9th, 10th, 11th rounds, right, that other opponents don't have. They don't. Understand, too. Alex Ariza's well in the background now, right? He's well out of the picture. Manny's no longer with Alex Ariza, right? I just feel that Manny's naturally a freak athlete, right? Kell Brook, though. And Brook's a great athlete. At least he was a great athlete. But we're talking about Kell Brook at 147 now. We're not talking about Kell Brook at his natural weight. Kell Brook at 147, in my opinion, would fade like Roy Jones faded against Glenn Johnson. In other words, Manny comes in, forces you to fight. He's jumping around the ring. He's bringing hand speed. Maybe Kell Brook can match that early. Won't have the reflexes, in my opinion. You know that already. But maybe he can, front and find other ways to try to match Manny's energy level early. But sooner or later, I believe Kell Brook's body is going to say to him, player, shouldn't we be 165? Shouldn't we be 170? I need some nutrients. I need some vitamins, man. I'm fading here. I believe Kell Brook isn't going to have the stamina to go 12 rounds against Manny Pacquiao. Right? I saw a Kell Brook fight where Kell Brook looked like he was fading badly. The first Carson Jones fight. Right? Kell Brook looked to me like he had a problem with Jones's energy level. Quite frankly, he was fortunate to win that fight, in my opinion. All credit to Kell Brook on the rematch. Right? Just imagine the Carson Jones fight, the first one, only with Manny Pacquiao as the opponent. Good luck coming back in that fight. Could you imagine Manny backing the guy up, throwing a bevy of punches, and Kell Brook looking as bad as he did that first Carson Jones fight? Busted up nose, he's breathing out of his mouth, he's overwhelmed. I'm just telling you, this Kell Brook, post the Golovkin fight, coming back down in weight is not going to be who he was before. They'll try to sell you on the idea that Kell Brook always yo-yoed in weight. Right? Always yo-yoed in weight. I'm just telling you it's not the same. Also, eventually the yo-yoing catches up with you. Where is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. today? Did you know that Manny Pacquiao, even when he fought Antonio Margarito, capped the weight and didn't come in above something like 150, 151. For Jesse Vargas, Pacquiao could have weighed 147 pounds. Manny came in, I believe, weighing around 145 pounds. Right? Pacquiao has, just like Usain Bolt, not yo-yoed his weight. Right? Sure, he's gained weight over time in his career. But now he's staying where he is. Right? If Kell Brook did it the same way, he'd be fighting at middleweight right now. He's not. He's talking about fighting Amir Khan. He's talking about fighting Manny Pacquiao. He's making the same mistake that Roy Jones made. Right? I can't figure it out for the life of me. Okay, you go to middleweight. You fight the best at middleweight, Golovkin. You lose. You get hit with some Golovkin shots. You say, man, he hits hard. Okay, great. That doesn't mean every middleweight hits hard. That doesn't mean you'd have the problems against other middleweights that you had against Golovkin. I don't understand why Kell Brook isn't staying at middleweight. Lord knows his body would thank him, right? Because he'd be able to have dessert. He wouldn't have to go through losing several pounds to make weight and then actually having to be able to perform. Now, I know I always get some people who say, hey, in MMA, people yo-yo and weight all the time. Player, this is not MMA. This is a different sport. I'm one of those people who believes that if Conor McGregor ever hopped in the ring with Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match, that'd be uncompetitive. Right? All I know is in boxing, you show me the guys who are dropping down 15 pounds. Right? And I'll show you a guy whose reflexes are not going to be the same. You know, when Kell Brook decided to fight Golovkin, whether he knew it or not, he was making a decision to abdicate his crown at 147 pounds. Right? You can't go back home. Once you decide to gain the weight, to fight a guy up at his weight, once you decide to do that, it's over for you at the lower weight, at least the reflex part of your game. Now, I know some are going to say, what about Henry Armstrong, Rich? You remember Henry Armstrong famously held 3 titles when there were only 8 weight classes? Okay, fine. Go back and research Henry Armstrong. Look at his fight style. He's not using reflexes. Right? A reflex fighter is a guy who, is out here. You throw at him, he quickly leans back. Right? Your punch ends here. Then he comes in and he's doing things. Right? That's a reflex guy. A reflex guy sees you, drop your hand a little bit. He quickly throws a right hand over your low hand. Right? Reflex guys are interactive. Kell Brook's a reflex guy. Right? Henry Armstrong, by contrast, was like Harry Greb. Right? He'd come in and he'd overwhelm you with a bunch of punches. His style wasn't read and react. His style was lead puncher. I'm throwing a lot of punches. I'm on my front foot. Right? Pressure breaks pipes. Also, research Henry's weight for a bunch of these fights. You're going to find that just because you fight a man in his division doesn't mean you have to weigh what the guy weighs. So guys like Henry Armstrong would fight at the higher weight class, but he himself wouldn't weigh as much as his opponent. Right? Well, Kell Brook, 30 days before the Golovkin fight, weighed more than Golovkin. If Kell Brook fights Manny Pacquiao, it's now November. If Kell Brook fights Manny Pacquiao, let's say any time before next June or July, count me among those who will be rolling with Manny Pacquiao in that fight. I think Pacquiao would win the fight. I think Pacquiao would be just too fast and would have too many reflexes for Kell Brook. Let me say this too. You know, guys who are as quick or who have been as quick as Roy Jones, as Kell Brook, as Manny Pacquiao, they develop bad habits, right? Because you're so fast that you don't have to do things the right way, right? The genius of Floyd Mayweather was fast, particularly young Mayweather was fast. But Mayweather was defense first. So Mayweather knew how to make you miss. Mayweather developed a shell. He always used a shell, right? Mayweather developed a shell that had punches bouncing off shoulders, bouncing off forearms. Look at Kell Brook fights. You know, Kell Brook at times, he's typically much faster than his opponent. Kell Brook at times is just dodging punches by leaning back, right? What I want you to do is to go back and revisit the end of the Golovkin fight. Kell Brook is practically defenseless, right? Golovkin early apparently fractures Kell Brook's eye socket, right? When Kell Brook, a moment before Kell Brook's corner throws in the towel, go back and revisit the film. Kell Brook really is defenseless. He's not doing a rope-a-dope where he's protecting himself on the ropes and stuff like that. No. Golovkin has so much to hit that Golovkin actually straightens up. You actually see Golovkin straighten up and walk over to Kell Brook. Golovkin knew the fight was over. He doesn't talk trash. He's not the kind of guy to say, I knew the fight was over. But look, you're watching the film and you notice Golovkin literally stand upright, walk over to Kell Brook before he starts throwing bombs. He knew the fight was over. He knew Kell Brook, a guy who is blessed with speed, didn't have the technique to deal with him once he cut off the ring and didn't allow himself to get grabbed. Right? So you can imagine when Manny Pacquiao comes at you at 90 miles an hour and you realize that you don't have the speed advantage that you normally have. Then you realize that you don't have the reflexes that you normally have because your body is not the same anymore. You were in the 170s, now the fight's at 147. You're going to find yourself in a whole world of trouble. So I like Manny Pacquiao in that fight. Kell Brook might still be Kell Brook at middleweight. I don't think Kell Brook is Kell Brook anymore at 147 pounds. When he made the decision to fight the champ at 160 pounds, in my opinion, he abdicated his title at 147. Put me among those two who do not expect Kell Brook to ever fight Errol Spence at 147 pounds. Were I Brook, I would fight at 160. I would hope Golovkin fights Danny Jacobs, right? Because, let's face it, I think Danny Jacobs would beat Kell Brook at 160 pounds, right? When two guys fight each other, two rivals of yours, one rival's going to get knocked off. So then, if I'm Kell Brook, I hope that Golovkin follows through on his threat to fight light heavyweights. Right? Golovkin's been talking about fighting light heavyweights. Right? If I'm Kell, I'm like, hey, have these guys leave the division. If I'm Kell Brook, I'd be campaigning to fight Canelo. Right? What I wouldn't be doing is trying to lose weight to fight Manny Pacquiao. Is there a worse matchup for Kell Brook? To fight Manny Pacquiao or to fight Errol Spence, another terrible matchup for Kell Brook, right? At this point, I would realize that the train has left the station. Roy Jones Jr. incredibly came back to the light heavyweight division to fight Antonio Tarver. That was not his best career move. Then after losing to Tarver, he decided to fight Glenn Johnson. Talk about a guy who's in your face, making you work. Right? Who was advising Roy on those fights? That's absurd. Roy Jones, folks, has never recovered. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I like Manny Pacquiao in the fight. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. I do know that a sizable group of you believe that Kell Brook looked good against Golovkin. I'm a little bit surprised by that, right? I know of no other fights where in the first half of a fight, a guy's corner throws in the towel. And then afterwards we say, oh, that guy showed Golovkin, or that guy showed the champ. I know of no other fights like that, right? None. But yet here, people are viewing Kell Brook as being vindicated, as having tested Golovkin. Understand, if that's a test of Golovkin, then Golovkin is easily one of the most dominant fighters in recent memory. Right? Wow, some guy's corner threw in the towel in the first half of a fight. What, man, Golovkin looked shaky. Right? Never hit the canvas. According to reports, fractured the other guy's eye socket. Okay, fine. If I'm Kell, why not ride that wave of goodwill at 160? You're telling me the guy who was proudly touting the fact that he was well into the 170s 30 days before that fight is now going to fight at 147? Folks, that's a bigger weight drop. That's a bigger weight drop than Roy Jones went through, dropping from heavyweight. That would be as ridiculous, in my opinion, as Deontay Wilder deciding, hey, I'm going to fight at cruiserweight. Right? And then expecting to have the same reflexes. Life doesn't work that way. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.